So you are here, you made it. Welcome to the JSM Fundamentals webinar with Expium. My name is Sam Ayers and I am one of Expium's Atlassian consultants. And today I'm just gonna be walking you through JSM, and when I refer to JSM, I'm of course referring to Jira Service Management. And I just wanna highlight some of its strengths, its capabilities, some functionality. And I do want to let you know, just as a side note, and there may be a few side notes through the training today, that we are having an ITSM, an IT Service Management webinar coming up next week that talks more in depth about ITSM functionality in general and how it pertains to Jira. You can sign up for that the same way you did for this webinar, and we will post a link for that class in the chat momentarily. So, without further ado, so Jira Service Management, or as I've called it, JSM, what is it and who is it for? So most people, when they attend this class, are familiar with Jira to at least some certain extent. And if you are, you know that Jira is Atlassian's core issue tracking task management tool. And essentially, JSM has Jira's well-known issue management functionality, but then it's rolled up into a service and support management tool. This allows for more advanced ticketing for internal and external customers, and it ultimately provides them with what we would call a service. So before we really start talking about the functionalities, features of Jira Service Management, I want to spend some time talking about the questions we often get surrounding JSM, who it's for, etc. Really, a lot of teams are service teams without even realizing it. A service team is any team that's providing a service to either an internal or external customer. And often there are a lot of different channels of intake. Those can include, and when I'm referring to channels, I mean the medium that you're using to submit those kinds of requests. So we're talking about email, phone calls. This one was pretty popular in my past life as a field technician. It can even be somebody passing you in the hallway, asking you to do something for them. I used to work in a clinical setting where I would have doctors and nurses who knew me by name and would say, hey, I need you to replace the keyboard here, or I'm having problems with the software here. And so that was pretty common. And the problem with these channels of intake that I've just mentioned, email, phone calls, face-to-face contact, is that there's no clear prioritization or tracking when you're receiving requests via those channels. And because these requests are so vague and there's not a great way of tracking them, there's also no visibility for the requester who's made them, and that would let them know when their request or how the request is being handled. And so, as I'm sure we all know, this can lead to the requester, pestering is kind of a negative word, but pestering you for updates, or going to your boss and asking them, when the request is going to be handled. And we obviously want to avoid this scenario if we can. And there is a solution for this, though. And the solution at a high level is a service desk that has a generic intake form, which will keep requesters up to date on when the request, or where the request is rather, in the process, or in other words, what status it's in. So we're going to talk about status a little bit once we jump into the tool. And then also, most importantly, a service management tool will let your customer know when their issue is going to be potentially resolved. So that's just one example of many pertaining to the who JSM is for. And so, yeah, we talked about how there's a support and a tracking process. Something we'll talk about briefly is knowledge base. So we have a knowledge base opportunity where we're able to present knowledge articles to our customers and to our agents. We can track and maintain SLAs, if that's a new acronym for you. That stands for Service Level Agreement. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later on. Again, we talked about prioritization. We are talking about a clean and highly customizable customer portal where we have a very specific form. And then also we can talk a little bit about how we are going to be able to automate repetitive tasks with Jira Service Management. So let me go back to my slideshow here. So as sort of a teaser for our ITSM webinar we're hosting next week, JSM has some advanced management features that we won't necessarily touch too much on in this webinar, since this is more of a fundamentals webinar. But I just wanted to encourage you to pursue our ITSM webinar happening next week if you have any interest in learning more about incident management, problem management, change management, or Insight, which is Atlassian's solution for an asset management tool. We also touch on Ops Genie, if you've heard of it, or and also Status Page. Okay. All right, let me go to my next slide here. So real quick, before we go any further, I just want to provide some information about Expium and just give you a sense of who we are and what we do. We are a Platinum Solutions partner with Atlassian. And what that means is that we provide a series of services. The first, and principally among those, being training. We provide in-depth training sessions like this webinar that you are viewing now, for example, but we also offer what we call a Jira Bootcamp. This is a 3-day deep dive into Jira, which trains you to be a Jira admin. We do Confluence training as well, and we also now offer, semi-hot off the presses, a Jira Service Management Bootcamp, which I'll post a link for in the chat also momentarily. Lastly, we offer user academies, which are more geared towards people who are using the tools on a daily basis, but aren't necessarily administering them. We offer consulting across the entire Atlassian suite of products for a wide range of organizations, both large and small. Concerning the solutions we provide, it's important to note that our parent company, Oasis Digital, is a full stack software development company that creates custom software to where we can offer innovative solutions that integrate seamlessly with Jira. This includes the development of apps, custom integrations using the API. We've even gone as far for some of our clients to build complete custom front ends for Atlassian products. So some real exciting opportunities there. By all means, ping us if any of those avenues are appetizing to you and your organizations. Okay. So now that you've got a better idea of who we are and what we do, let's jump into the tool. One thing I want to mention before we get going here is that if you guys have any questions as we move through the training here, click the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen and feel free to write your questions. We will cover those at the end, so feel free to just kind of post them as we're going through while they're fresh in your mind. And typically I like to leave some time at the end to go over them. All right, so let me get out of my presentation here. We're all done with slides. Everybody can breathe the breath of relief there. And okay, so jumping in now, we're going to start out in the portal, or what I and most of the consultants here affectionately call the portal of portals. And what this is this is where your customers are first going to land when they come to your individual portal. You can see there's a portal for each JSM project in Jira, the IT Service Desk portal here. You have your HR Service Desk portal here. You have the Facility Service Desk portal. Also on this page, you have a search bar at the very top here, taking up some prime real estate that says Find Help and Services. Here you can actually search for a request that you would like to submit. So let's say I'm having a problem with a piece of hardware like my laptop. I could actually just search hardware, and I'm going to see a few requests come up for this. One request is for new hardware, as you can see here. The other request is to report broken hardware. Or I could click on one of these and submit a ticket that relates to either one. I could also search for something here, let's say VPN not working. And looky there, so this is kind of cool. So I am met with two knowledge-based articles that could potentially help me solve my issue without ever having to submit a ticket. This is a big win here for your customers to be able to resolve an issue by themselves. And then also, this is the idea of deflection, in the sense that we want to deflect as many tickets from being created in order to take the workload off of our service desk agents. So going back out to the portal of portals, I'm going to do that by clicking this X here. The first one we're going to look at is the most common portal probably in your organization too, depending on what tool you use, which is the IT service desk. And within this portal, so I'm going to click on it here, you have a lot of requests, and this is likely to be the case for an IT portal. So with that being said, we can break these requests into what we call portal groups. So this is the second tier. So we're kind of a second level down now from the Help Center. We're in the IT Service Desk portal, and these are what we call portal groups or portal categories within Jira. So within each group, if you expand them, you can see a lot of requests within each group. So if I click computers, for example, I'm presented with a myriad of options here pertaining to computers, request a new laptop, get an IT help, request new software, and so on and so forth. And so this is what you see here are actually what we call request types. So just kind of going back over the hierarchy again, because this is just important to keep in mind when you're thinking about JSM as a solution for your organization. We have Help Center, we have our service desk, we have our portal groups, and then we have our request types. So let's say I need to order a new laptop, or I broke mine and I need a new one. I would select request a new laptop. Or I can select report broken hardware as my option here. I can say currently my equipment is damaged. And now I'm going to fill out the form actually for this request here. And what's really, really cool, kind of going back to knowledge here, let me go here. You can say I dropped my laptop and stepped on it by accident. It's done. And then what's cool here is we're not going to get into this too much here, but what we have is a wonderful product called Insight that integrates seamlessly with Jira, where it's essentially a CMDB, if you're familiar with that term. We have our hardware models that are available to us. Okay. And then what we can do here, actually, let me go back to, I want to show you something here that I think is pretty valuable. We'll go ahead and send this request in because we may use it later. I'm going to go back to the service desk and I'm going to look at get IT help, for example. One thing I wanted to show you, going back to knowledge and being able to present that to your customers, is if I start typing in partials here, even just VPN, just like I saw earlier, I have articles that are suggested right as I'm typing into the summary field. This is, again, this idea of deflection, and this is kind of the last-ditch effort within Jira to deflect this ticket. So this is really, really cool. Your users may not even know that there was a help desk or a knowledge article rather out there that could help them resolve their issues. So again, this is just kind of a cool feature. Okay. So let me go back to the ticket I created, which I can do that by going up to this request box up here. And we go back to it here, and we'll talk more about that menu here. So let's say I just submitted my request. This is the screen that I have filled out here, or this is the screen that I'm presented with actually after I've submitted a ticket. So the overall view changes, and we can see the fields that we filled out down here on the left here. And this is where updates down here at the bottom, this section called activity. This is where you're going to see updates like any comments, either from the agent that's working your ticket, any comments that you've added as a submitter. So you can say, hey, can I have an update on this request? Click save. So this is where you'd actually see all of your own comments. And what's really, really nice is once you submit a comment, you will actually notify the agent that's working on your issue that you've submitted a comment here. One thing I wanted to point out also is in the comment section, you have a full wiki style editor available to you where you can add bulleted list, you can change your text styles, you've got bold, you can italicize your text. You've got some more formatting options here, subscript, superscript, underline, strike through, code. You can change the text color. We all love red text. So we can say, I need this now, and I need to make sure that the agent knows that I'm being very impatient. I can put in the red text to denote that. I don't advise doing that, but just want to illustrate that you've got a lot of formatting options here. You can add links if there's a hyperlink that is relevant to your request. You can upload files and images. Really helpful there. And then you have a couple of other options here where you can insert code snippets, so on and so forth. So just wanted to show that briefly in the comments section. This is an area that you're going to be very interested in as a customer interacting with the portal. So moving on in this customer portal view, once we've submitted the ticket, we see some other helpful information, such as the status of the ticket. This is something I'm going to be very interested in. Right now, I can see that my case is waiting for approval. And so basically I can assume that obviously it needs to be approved, or an agent hasn't picked it up yet and approved it. I can see that I have notifications enabled. I have an opportunity to click and disable them. Obviously I would advise against doing that. You probably want to be kept abreast of all changes in your particular request. Currently, you have an option to obviously view the request type that you selected. That should be somewhat fresh in your memory there, but we also have this really great selection here where I can share my request with other folks in my organization, or there is this idea of organizations. So let me actually type a name. So let's say I wanted to share this issue with Connor. I can put in Connor's name and click save. And Connor's also going to receive updates on this particular case. Or I can type in an email address. Even if somebody is not technically in my instance, I can share requests with them and send them a shared with notification there. Or there's this idea of organizations where you can share with a group of people. So this might be valuable in the case of a mass outage or like a well-known problem that impacts many other people within your organization. You have the opportunity to keep them all updated on this particular request. Obviously, that's not going to be the case with a new laptop request, but just wanted to show you this opportunity to share with an organization here. All right. And the idea there being that you're keeping duplicate tickets from being created and unnecessarily overwhelming your service desk team being able to communicate through those channels. So lastly, up here at the top, we can see the search bar and a button that says request. You probably saw me access that briefly just a second ago to get back to my request. In that search bar that you see here, when I click on it, it's very similar to that search bar that we saw at the very beginning. Actually, it's exactly the same. The functionality is the same. And if I close this and go back to my screen, I've got this request section where I can look at all past tickets that I've submitted under this requests page here. I've got some filtering options too, which are kind of helpful. I can filter based on status. I can filter based on tickets that are created by anyone or just by me, or where I'm the participant. So going back to that share section here. And then I can also filter by request type based on what's in my service desk. So really valuable section here. This is also where if I'm an approver, I can click on approvals and see what requests are awaiting my approval. So really handy there. And then also I have the opportunity to look at all requests. Okay, so let's actually take a look at a ticket from the agent view, or the agent side of Jira. So I'm going to go back to the portal ticket view here for this new laptop request that I just submitted. And I can click here at the top. You can see it, it hopefully isn't too small on your screen here, but I can click on the top here with this, what's called the issue key. So this ITSD prefix followed by a number. This is what we call the issue key. And as a side note, a customer who doesn't have a license for Jira would not be able to do this. But since I'm an admin and a licensed agent, I'm able to navigate into the agent side of Jira with this link that I'm about to click here. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm just going to open it in a new tab. And again, similarly to the agent side, I can see everything that was submitted on the form over here in this details pane. And something else to note also, so I know there's a lot going on the screen, but what we can see is who's raised the requests, all the comments that have been added here to date at the bottom. And then we also have this idea of SLAs, or service level agreements here. And we can see that I have an SLA of time to first response. I also have a time to resolution. And what's really, really nice is I have actual times for when actually I should respond to this issue. So obviously I need to respond to this issue probably as soon as possible, within 4 hours, but ideally as soon as possible. And then also tomorrow, by 11:12 a.m. is when I'm looking to have this issue resolved based on the service level agreement that I have worked through and designated with my customer. All right, and so at the bottom here, let's look at the comment section on the agent side. So as an agent, I have the ability to comment on a ticket internally. So this is really important to note. I can say this is for agent eyes only. And if I click save, actually, let me scroll down a little bit more there. If I click save, you can see that this comment is actually highlighted as an internal note, meaning that this is only going to be able to be seen by other agents. It's not going to be in a customer view. And I do this just by making sure that I select add an internal note versus the other option I have, which is replying to the customer, where I can say, I'm working on this. Thanks for your patience. We'll end with the presumptive close there. And what I can show you is actually back out on the portal, the comment that I just made as an agent, which is confusing because obviously I'm the agent and customer here, but this is the comment that I just submitted as an agent. So again, this direct line of communication between me and the customer is going on here. All right. So as a general rule, we don't want internal comments going back out to the customer. Under the general activity section, we also have the option to view all activity by clicking this menu here. So one thing to point out about Atlassian products, you're gonna have to get used to the gray kind of opaque box that doesn't look like it's necessarily clickable, but it is. There's a lot of buttons like that in Jira. Not complaining, just pointing it out. You'll get used to it. But if you click all, this is where you can see all activity on a ticket. So that includes comments, that includes obviously the journey of this ticket at the very beginning, when it was created, some automation rules actually that are running in the background. That's pretty cool. And then we have a few other things where I've added a request participant. So again, going back out to the portal where I added Connor. So this is a great comprehensive view that kind of gives you the full history of this ticket. Again, we have the comment section that you were just looking at here, where it's looking at just comments. And what you can do is you can actually click on the history section here also. That gives you just that level of detail where the issue was created, what automation is doing. You've got work logs here where you, this is actually with an add-on with tempo timesheets. So this is not something we're going to necessarily talk about today, but there's a time and status menu as well. And this is also an add-on, so we're not going to talk too much about it, but some add-ons actually will show up down here in the activity section. So just something to be aware of, but we're not going to talk too much about here. Okay. All right, so moving on to how we interact with the ticket. An important section as an agent is where we can currently see the status of the issue. This one's currently set to waiting for approval. And then what we can do is actually transition this issue to approved. And so this is a good opportunity to actually show you how approvals work in Jira. In this case, it's saying one approval is needed. That's actually going to Brian Dar. So in Insight, which again is a backend kind of CMDB tool that we're interfacing with, he's listed as my manager. But just to kind of show you how approvals work, if I can actually add an approver. So let's say I am my own boss today. I'm going to say Sam Ayers. You have the opportunity to add an approver here. So you can have it automated, or you can actually add an approver. So if I go back, I just want to show you what this looks like. So if I am an approver in the agent side of Jira, I'm presented with this lovely box. and very inviting green button where I can click approve. So just something to note there about approvals. So this is, but going back to this box here, so this is actually where you transition issues. So you can actually say, you know what, this one is in progress now that it's been approved. And what's great is I have this wonderful pop-up just based on how I have my workflow set up, where I have the opportunity to assign this issue to myself, which makes sense as an agent. If I'm taking action on a ticket, I'm going to want to assign it to myself. So I can either do that by typing my name in, either first or last. I'm going to be presented with my name there at the bottom, or I have this lovely button that I can click that says assign to me. And then I have this also wonderful opportunity to respond to the customer or add an internal comment and say, hey, I've got this one, guys. And I can say in progress. And what do you know, there my ticket is in an in progress status. So really, really great, easy functionality here right at the top. This is a box that is going to become your friend as an agent. Real quick too, something to show you that may be available to you and should be available to you. These are all of the different transition options I have once I'm in an in progress status. And what is driving this is the workflow that is tied to this particular issue type of service request with approvals. And so I can view the workflow and kind of see a map of where this ticket can go, what the options are. These are statuses, these are transitions. And so this is kind of the map that it's following. So this is a great reference for you as an agent as well. Okay, yeah, and just a note, quick note about workflow. JSM comes with several out-of-the-box workflows for incident management, request management, and change management, just to name a few. So really, really great. We find that a lot of clients like to use the out-of-box workflows. If it isn't broken, don't fix it. They work very, very well and apply across several different organizations and their processes. Okay, and just real quick again, I just wanted to show you this functionality here. So there's this link here, view request in portal. And I'm just going to do that now. I'm going to jump back out to the request in the portal. And again, as a customer, you would receive an email notification letting you know that the issue status of your ticket is now in progress. So now we're going to come back to the portal. And again, you would see work in progress and then going back to the agent view now. Let's say it is time to close our ticket. I would simply, in this case, transition my issue to resolve. So again, I'm only presented with the options based on how the transitions are set up. And what I can do is click resolve. And then what I can do here, so there's this idea, the resolutions are separate than statuses. So often when we're in a resolution status denoted by this green color, we're also presented with the option to make a selection for our resolution. We can automate this process, just as a side note, where you can add a resolution via automation. But in this case, we are being prompted to manually select a resolution, which makes sense. And then we have this wonderful opportunity actually to link issues. So this is really, really great in the sense of if we're closing an individual issue that might be tied to a larger parent issue, great opportunity here. So I'll say this issue is resolved, resolve the issue. And I'm just going to refresh my page. Wonderful. Cool. And one thing to note here, you may have noticed this, but our SLAs, yay, we met both of these important SLAs here. Time to first response, we met that SLA within the 4-hour window. Time to resolution, we resolved this issue within 8 hours. So as an agent, you would see these very happy looking check marks letting us know that we met our goal there. So great, great opportunity there, and just great visualization of SLAs. So just going down the rest of the details panel just briefly, we can update virtually any of these fields that you see here just by clicking on them. So let's say I want to reassign this issue. That's something I might need to do as an agent. I'm going to reassign it to Connor here. I would do so just by clicking into the field, typing a name, and I'm off to the races there. If I need to change the priority, that's something that I'm probably going to be well acquainted with as an agent. Let's say somebody calls back in and says, actually, I need, this isn't a low priority, this is a high priority. I'm about to leave town. I need this laptop as soon as possible. I could click into this priority field, say it's a high priority, and it's as easy as that. Another thing here too, as an agent, so this idea of making knowledge articles visible to agents on the agent side of things. There's knowledge-based articles that are suggested to me based on the ticket here, so I can click onto those as a quick resource. I can also search for articles here as well, or I have this wonderful button here where I can create another article on the fly, which is really, really helpful. Let's see, what other fields might we be interested in? We have support team, we have approved. So this is who approved the ticket here. That might be helpful to know. These are our request participants, again, hearkening back to our requesters submitting that request via the portal and where they added some request participants. We have a line of history here for our approvers that I can add or remove. One quick little feature that I wanted to show you as well is this wonderful pin to top feature. So if I click on that little pin icon, hopefully you can see it here. But if I run my mouse over any of these fields, I can basically pick the fields, pick and choose which ones I'm most interested in. So let's say I'm most interested in assignee and priority. I can pin these fields. They're at the very top under SLAs. Really, really helpful feature there. So some other little things that might be useful to you to know or just be cognizant of as an agent are these features here up at the top. This is where you can watch an issue. So if you're interested in this issue or any issue as an agent, if you just click on this little eye icon, now granted, I'm already watching this issue, but let's say I'm not currently watching it. I can click on this eye icon and add myself as a watcher by clicking Start Watching. There is a vote button up here. To be honest, I haven't seen this used very often. I'm sure there's a wonderful feature for it or a functionality where it could thrive. I haven't used it much or if I had many clients use it much, but it is here. You can vote on issues. And then you also have this option to share this issue with other folks. You can enter a team member's name. You can enter their email address. You can include a message. There's some Slack integration, which we're not going to talk too much or really anything about in this class, but there's some integration here where you could share it in Slack. There's a copy link option where you can actually copy a direct link to the issue, and it's just copying it directly to your clipboard. And then you would click share after you put in the relevant users that you want to share there. Okay. And then this ellipses over here offers some more options where you can log time, again, connect to a Slack channel. If you have this, some of this is going to respect permissions, but if you have permissions to move or clone or delete issues, you'd be able to do that here or have an opportunity to do that here. There's this wonderful find your field option. If you're looking for a field that's not on your screen, you can start typing it in and it gives you a synopsis basically saying, yeah, this is enabled in your default field configuration. We're getting a little bit into the weeds here, but just a feature that will show you why a field is missing. That might be helpful to know, and take that information and go back to your Jira admin and say, hey, I need to see this field on my create or view and edit screens. This is a great little tool here that I quite honestly use a lot. You've got an actions menu. You can print, you can export to XML or to Word. So that's just another little menu that has a lot of options. It's pretty powerful, and it also just kind of lives up here quietly in the corner. So just to be aware of that menu. All right. Okay, so we talked about approvals, and we talked about adding a manager. Yeah, so, okay. So right now that we've broken down, so we've really broken down the issue view and interacting with the ticket itself. A really important section that I really want you to be aware of is the queues. So if I go back here, you probably saw that up here. But at the top left, queues are something that you're going to be very much aware of as an agent. And queues, essentially, as you can probably surmise, are how tickets are sorted for us as the agent. This is where we spend most of our time looking for the work that we need to do, and we can build out queues that make sense to the people doing the work. So for example, if I have a queue for all open tickets right here, if I click on queues, this will show you obviously all the tickets that are currently in progress within your IT service desk project. We have a queue named all my tickets. So this is something that you're probably going to be well acquainted with as an agent. And obviously this shows you all the tickets that are assigned to you. And again, it just shows all the work that's assigned to you within your project that's particular to you. And then there's actually an open tasks queue here that specifically shows just task issue types that are open in your project. So we can see that a queue can be essentially filtered by virtually any criteria for work that's coming in that needs to be visualized by an agent. One little quick feature here, very similar to the pinning of fields that I showed you in the agent view, you can actually star queues. So if I'm interested in all my tickets, I can click this star queue and have my queue here at the top. This makes sense. I'm thinking of an example where maybe an IT service desk, all the different teams are within one service project. So you have cybersecurity, you have your applications team, you have your hardware folks, field technicians, all in one IT project. This queue pane over here is going to get really busy really fast. And so being able to star queues and prioritize them and kind of rank them is really, really helpful, and just kind of pulls everything to the forefront for you, so you don't have to dig through a whole slew of queues. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about creating a queue. So at the very bottom here, if I wanted to create a queue, actually I'm going to get a drink of water here. If I click on Manage Queues at the bottom, this is where I'm met with the opportunity to create a new queue. And if I could sum up queues, if you're familiar with Jira and have heard of issue filters, queues are essentially just glorified issue filters. So if I go to create a new queue, here we can put in the name of the queue. So let's say, yeah, we can just keep new queue as the name, that's fine. But this is where you put in the name of it. And then what's great here is we're met with this opportunity to filter the queue. So this is, again, going back to this idea that queues are kind of just issue filters in and of themselves. So let's say I want to make a queue for all closed issues. I could create a filter that says resolution equals done. Let's say I wanted to create, and you can see here that my filter changes down here at the bottom in real time, which is pretty cool. And also gives you some feedback of whether or not your query syntactically is correct. Let's say I wanted a queue that would show me all issues that are in the status of waiting on customer. So I could say, let's go back to resolution unresolved, and then I add and a status equals, we'll put in quotes here because JQL will recognize spaces here. So we need quotes for customer. And then I get a green check mark letting me know that my, again, my filter is syntactically correct. And then here you go. I've got actually a pretty honed list of issues here that I get in real time, real feedback here as I'm typing my query. One thing to note too, you don't have to be a JQL aficionado here. We can actually switch to basic view. So what's really cool is actually that shows you that this query can be achieved either by typing in JQL. It's simple enough where you can actually just use the drop-down menus here. So again, you don't have to be a JQL wizard, nor am I proclaiming that I am either, just to be an unnecessary disclaimer there. But you have the option to use drop-down menus here as well. And you can actually add more different fields here that you can filter on. So pretty cool. So I'm gonna go back to JQL. And in order to create this queue, I would need to click create at the bottom right, and the queue is created. And so again, these are just the broad queues in Jira that we've set up here in the left pane. But there are other queues, obviously, that you can enable for, well, one quick thing I'm going to note too here too is you can add columns here just by either typing in if you know what column you need. So I could say I want affected equipment here added. Then I have an affected equipment field if it had some data in it. So again, you can add columns here too. So just wanted to show you that as well. I just added an approvers column. So pretty cool. So again, these are just broad queues in Jira that we have set up. There are other queues that you can enable for service requests, incidents, problems, and changes. This is a quick way here. So just to look at a couple of these, here's service requests. This is just, again, kind of a filter that lives on top of, I'm going to discard this. I'm not going to save this here. But these are just queues that are specifically looking at just service requests. And then you've got, obviously, unassigned service requests. Let me actually drag this over so you can see the truncated text. And you have, again, so these are service request queues, incident queues, and then you also have queues for problems and changes. So these are out of box queues that you can enable and make available to your agents. And so again, it's just a quick way to access those specific categories, which is probably what a lot of your issues are going to actually fall into categorically. So again, queues are incredibly important for agents working in Jira every day, and we really want to make sure that queues are helpful by ensuring that the filters on the queues are accurate. An example of this would be if a request type gets renamed, but the queue actually doesn't know that you made that change. So just from an administrative standpoint, just being aware of changes that you make and how they could affect other filters down the road. That filter would be broken, and then therefore the queue would be broken. So just something to keep in mind. We want to make sure that they're accurate and kept up to date. So now that I've covered the main points of Jira Service Management, including the customer portal, the agent sides, along with queues, I want to shift briefly to looking at SLAs. It's important to note that you need to be a project admin to configure SLAs. So when I say project admin, this menu down here is going to be available to you, project settings. But if you click down here at the bottom, you can see project settings. And then if you click on this button here, SLAs, if I scroll down a little bit, it's right here. You're met with this menu here. And again, I talked about them briefly a few moments ago. And again, SLA stands for Service Level Agreement. And again, this is the basic level of service that our team is committed to and is providing to our customers, whether they are internal or external. And SLAs are usually a goal that, again, you commit to providing. So you're saying we are committed to meeting this time to resolution goal, for example, within a certain amount of time. So let's look at some of the SLAs from the back end. So here you can see we have an SLA of time to resolution, time to first response. We saw that on our issue earlier. Time to close after resolution, time to review normal change. And so I can actually, let's look at time to resolution, for example, and I can expand this by clicking this little caret over here to the right. And so we have our goals or our time goal where we have a 4-hour time goal, our ticket category. So this is a JQL query here that's going on. So we're looking at a ticket category of incidents. We're looking at a sample 9 to 5 calendar. So this is going to be Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We have our ticket category for service requests, where we're looking at an 8-hour window, which would make sense. And incidents are going to be resolved faster than service requests. Again, using the sample 9 to 5 calendar. We have this conditions section where we can actually start the counting of time. So we want to dictate to our SLA when we're actually going to start counting that time. So we're starting on issue created, and then we're also counting time when a resolution is cleared. So just to translate this, this would be when an issue is reopened. And so that's when we would be clearing a resolution and saying that our issue's reopened. We've got an option to pause time, which makes sense, and then finish in time. And then we also have a formatting option here where we can select how our SLA is formatted. Okay, And let's talk about the calendar just briefly. So as of right now, we're using the sample 9 to 5 calendar on this guy. And so that's going to be, again, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. rather. But we can add a calendar to be 24/7 or anything in between by clicking the calendar icon up here in the top right that kind of hides up there. And so if I click add a calendar, this is where I can name it what I want and then configure it based on these checkboxes. If let's say I wanted it all through the week, 7 days, we can add holidays down here, which is really helpful. We can add our time zone. There's some other calendars in this tab here. This is again where we're seeing the sample 9 to 5. So a lot of flexibility here, especially for 364, 24/7 shop. So let's actually, just for the sake of time, I want to actually jump. We've talked about SLAs a bit. Let's talk about reports here. So if we jump back out to project settings, or actually not project settings, I'm sorry, back to the main screen here. We're going to click on reports. And reports are going to live under this knowledge category here. So if I click on reports, we have some wonderful default reports that come kind of out of box here. And then you also have the option to create some new reports. But I just wanted to just highlight a couple of these reports just to kind of show you how they work and just get you to be thinking about how they might be helpful to your team. So let's look at the SLA met versus breached report, for example. So if we look at this, we can see the number of SLAs that have obviously been met or breached within a certain time frame. So the time frame is designated by this drop down here, which is past 7 days, past 30 days. We can even go past year by month. That's an interesting one. Or we have the opportunity to add a custom range, which is pretty neat. So obviously you can see in this case, we're not doing so hot as a service desk. We've only met one of our SLAs and we've reached 68. So that would be a case where we would want to have some managerial discussions and then also some discussions with our agents. But again, this is again, you can create your own range, and what this report again is going to show is how many SLAs were met on a given day and how many were breached on a given day. And the purpose of these reports as a whole is to prompt you to ask the question of why. So for example, why are we breaching SLAs here? Or what can we do differently to meet them? This leads me to the next report I just want to talk briefly about that could help us track down the quote why. And that is the workload report up here at the top that you saw when we first accessed this menu. And you can see a number of the issues currently being worked on by each user. So Connor actually appears to be winning here with the majority of the work, and everyone else has, one or none. And obviously, what we can infer is that maybe Connor's having trouble keeping up with the demand of the work that's being kind of thrown at him, and is as a result breaching SLA. So in this case, we could there could be a need to redistribute our work more fairly, so Connor isn't our bottleneck. And the SLAs can be met more frequently. So if your work is spread out evenly across your team, maybe it is your SLA that is the problem. So this is a really helpful report, and you can use reports in conjunction with one another to make inferences that'll be helpful to kind of manage your work and manage your teammates. Other reports that might be helpful to you. This one's kind of cool, actually. Request deflected. This report really helps your team hone their knowledge base by letting you know at a high level whether or not your knowledge base is really effective with regards to deflection. So again, going back to this idea of deflection, the thumbs up icon actually is what's driving this at the bottom of knowledge articles out in the portal. If a user says, yeah, this article helped me out, and they click the thumbs up, that'll register as a deflection, and you'll see that in real time reflected in this report. Pretty cool. Okay, well, I have done a fair amount of talking here. I obviously want to open the floor for discussions. With that being said, let me go back to my slide here just very briefly. Feel free, and please do connect with me on LinkedIn. Again, here's my email address. Please reach out to me with any questions that you had. If something piqued your interest in this class, I want to hear about it. I want to have a discussion with you about it. I will be sure to get back to you. So here's my email address right here. And then I just also wanted to show some of our upcoming classes that you might be interested in. Specifically, this Jira Service Management for IT Service Management is, again, September 1st, next week, online. Lovely cost number there, $0 to you. So just wanted to point that out. That may be something you're going to be interested in, just talking about some more advanced ITSM features. So with that being said, I am going to pop over to the Q&A and see if we have any questions. And I will try my best to answer them, obviously. And if I don't know the answer, we will be sure to follow up with you and get you an answer of some sort. Is the course schedule on your website? Great question, Trent. Let me actually pull that up, and that is a resounding yes. Let me pull that up for you. So if you just search even in Google Expium LLC, or you can just go to expium.com. We have our training listed here right up at the top, and you can scroll down. This section is free webinars. So again, a lot of free courseware here that we offer. Really, really great. And then we've got our paid classes denoted by the green shading here. Can't stress how awesome this boot camp is to you. I've actually been through it myself. It is wonderful. It gets you on the fast track to being an admin. Our instructors are extremely experienced, wonderful teachers. Can't stress how great this class is enough. So again, just be aware of these paid classes. There's a lot of value there, but there's a ton of value in our free webinars as well. So great question. Yeah, expium.com training section right here at the top. Thanks for asking that, Trent. Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions? Okay, well, by all means, if you have any questions or anything pops in your mind later on, again, let me go back to my email address. So you have it here, sam.ayers@expium.com. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Love to get your questions answered. Thank you so much for your attention. It was great meeting with all of you. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks a lot.